Good morning. It is 9 o'clock on July 28th. I'm Larry Cedar. I'm back with you for another session on scanning. Just like it sounds, S-C-A-N-N-I-N-G. Scanning is the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. I practice every day, a couple times a day. I practice when I don't feel like practicing, which is kind of like today. When you are in a contractive state, you don't want to let go of that contractive state. Scanning is the process of expansion. It means letting go. So frequently when I practice, very frequently when I practice, I don't want to practice. My mind is thinking about things. I'm distracted. I'm quote unquote tired. There's a million reasons why I avoid scanning or expansion, because it involve letting go of my current state. And for whatever reason, I may be clinging to that. And this is what happens in life. We are habitually contractive. So we want to try through scanning to make the reverse process of expansion just as habitual. So we come into balance, contraction, expansion, center. So that's what we're doing here. In brief, I like to review a little bit. These ideas come from a man named Thaddeus Golas, who wrote a book called The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment. I recommend you read it. In it, he says there are two basic processes in the universe: contraction, make a fist, and expansion, release. So what he says is we're either moving towards contraction or towards expansion. You can't do both at the same time. You may be vacillating rapidly, but you can't contract and expand at the same time. You can't make a fist and release a fist at the same time. So what he says is that many of our problems in life come from being overly contracted. So what we try to do with scanning is, through the release of muscular tension, reverse that contractive process and expand. And we do that through the release of muscular tension. So make a fist, 3, 2, 1, release. So that's what we're going to try to do. My goal in my life is to make expansion as much a part of my life as contraction. Contraction is doing, thinking, making an effort, building things, bringing particles, materials, forces, people, ideas together and maintaining that structure. Expansion is the opposite: letting go, releasing, becoming neutral, open, available, accepting, nothing. So we don't want to be either one extreme or the other, but we do want to bring a balance, which is center. So I try to practice scanning frequently throughout the day, even when I don't feel like it, and especially when I don't feel like it. So let's get started. We're going to start by taking deep, deep breaths, followed by moments of stillness and silence. And we're going to see how that changes us. We're going to gauge where we are now, what our state of mind is now, good or bad, and we're going to begin to expand and see what that does. So we're going to start with 3 deep breaths, followed by 15 seconds of absolute stillness and silence. Here we go. As deep as you can, expand. 15 seconds, absolute stillness and silence. So breaths are by nature expansive, as we described, and when we're contracted, we tend to hold our breath. So by taking a deep breath, we've already begun the expansive process. Stillness and silence, it's very valuable because it stops us from doing whatever we've been doing. We stop moving, we stop thinking, we stop speaking. So that's taking us, again, away from contraction into an expanded state. I always say that if you take nothing away from these sessions but this, deep breaths, stillness, and silence, you will have learned to scan, and you will have enabled yourself to move into a more expanded state through those simple steps of breaths and stillness and silence. So how do you feel? You took 3 deep breaths and you sat for 15 seconds in stillness and silence. Well, the first thing I notice is I feel more okay about sitting and doing nothing, which a few moments ago I felt like I needed to do something. So already in the expanded state, you have no compulsions, you have no goals, you have no drive, you have no concern or worries. you come to a place of nothingness and emptiness where there's no expectation. So I've already started to move slightly in that direction. So let's extend that. Let's go to 5 deep breaths, followed by 30 seconds of absolute stillness and silence. Here we go. As deep as you can. 30 seconds, absolute stillness and silence. But continue to breathe. Deep breath. So there's a misconception that Thaddeus Golas talks about in his book, that people who have learned to expand are by nature calm and quiet and at peace. Yes, it's true. When you're expanded, you feel more calm, more quiet, more at peace. But that doesn't mean their basic nature is that. If you were to meet me for the first time, you might find that I speak very quickly, that I'm frequently distracted, thinking about other things, somewhat physically agitated. I'm kind of a high energy person. It's one of the reasons I developed this technique. So I would never claim to be any sort of calm, Zen, if you will, centered person by nature. I use this technique to bring me back to center. So I like to pay attention in my scanning sessions, again, to that shift away from contraction to expansion. And through the breaths I've taken and the stillness and silence, I'm already feeling more calm and more centered. And that's what this technique is for, to bring you to a calm, centered place. We're moving away from contraction to expansion. Now we're going to take it even further, expand even further. We're going to take 7 deep breaths, followed by 60 seconds of absolute stillness and silence. 7 deep breaths. Here we go. Three more. Seven. 60 seconds, absolute stillness and silence. Deep breath. So again, take a note of how you feel different. For me, there's a sort of stillness which comes over me, a sort of quiet, mental quiet, physical quiet. I feel much more at ease sitting still in one place and not doing anything, just from that small amount of expansion that we achieve through breath and stillness and silence. And, I will note that personally, I can pretty much guarantee for myself that when I feel bad, and that can be an agitated sort of bad or a depressed sort of bad, I just don't feel happy, unsettled, unhappy. I'm generally contracted. See, people mistake the expansive process for only working when you are tense. But when you are depressed, what you are is emotionally contracted. You're worried about things and you've pulled in, you've closed yourself off, you've pulled into a place where you are not engaged in life. That is a contraction. And this happens, any given moment during the day, you can become depressed. And you feel like withdrawing and you don't want to do anything. You start to withdraw. That's an emotional contraction. So what I found is that this technique helps with that as well. Anytime I feel badly or unhappy, if I expand, I overcome that feeling and feel more at peace, happier. If I was depressed, it was because I was contracted emotionally. I've opened myself up. I feel more free, more engaged. I'm breathing. I'm aware. I pulled myself out of that tight emotional space. So I've found it basically to be a cure-all. It's why I'm so devoted to it and why I share it here, because I think it's helpful under all circumstances. So again, what we've done is the preliminary aspect of scanning, which is the deep breaths and stillness and silence. And I already feel a change. And check with yourself and see how you feel different. I would say today I started the session feeling somewhat disturbed, worried, for some generalized unknown reason. I just didn't feel right, anxious. And I really monitor my emotions and my physical being constantly because I'm very fascinated by this contraction-expansion continuum. And when I see that happening, then I say, I'm going to scan. And I'm resistant to it because a contracted state wants to remain contracted. That's its job in life. It's what it does. So frequently, when you most need to expand through scanning or whatever other technique you want to use, is when you least want to expand. Resistance wants to resist. The great thing is that the opposite is true. Expansion wants to expand. And as you move into a more expanded state, you're going to find yourself wanting to do it more and more, to just let go and be free. It's a feeling of freedom. So the reason I've devoted myself to this process so completely, and why I do it so frequently, in so many hours, a day, a month, a year, is because I'm trying to build an awareness of consciousness of the value of expansion. We habitually come to believe in life that the only answer is through contraction, through doing, through thinking, through worry. Now we know instinctively that's not true because we need vacations, we need to have a drink, we need to smoke a joint. We know it's not ultimately good for us, but we don't know how to escape the contracted process. So we use external means. But you don't need to. It's all within you. You have the capacity to expand through the simple act of scanning, deep breaths, stillness, silence, and what we're now going to do, which is what I call the nuts and bolts of the technique, which is actual muscular release. We started out by saying scanning is the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. And that's the physical aspect of this technique. Through relaxation of the musculature, you bring yourself, through the expansion of the muscles, into an overall expanded state. You use the muscles as a guide, as a leader to take you to that place. And even the smallest amount of expansion, make a fist, 3, 2, 1, release, will start to send signals to your body that we are now stopping with contraction and moving into expansion. And the longer you stay with it, the more expanded you'll get. And you'll feel that difference. You'll feel it. You'll feel yourself come out of that tight, contracted space, physically, emotionally, mentally, into a more open, available, still, quiet, happy, peaceful state of nothingness. So we're going to use the muscles. Now we're going to move into phase 2 of the technique. So we start with the face. There's muscular zones as I have attributed them to my body. You can do whatever you like, but find a muscle group and let it go. The face, 3, 2, 1, and release. When I say release, I mean tune into whatever muscular tension there is in your face, and on my count, 3, 2, 1, let it go. You go slack. It's as if you had a string, you were holding it taut, and then you put your hands together, and it went slack. No tension, just release. And Tune into how that feels to let go of even the smallest amount of muscular tension. 3, 2, 1, the face, and release. So now you've done it. That's all scanning is. Deep breaths, stillness and silence, muscular release. Period. I can't tell you how many times I've been in an agitated state or worried state or depressed state, and I said to myself, just let go of some muscular tension somewhere in your body. Start anywhere, and you'll feel a great deal of resistance. But just start. You can even do this. Squeeze your hands together, 3, 2, 1, release. See how that feels? Take a deep breath. It's funny, you know, I find whenever I squeeze my hands together, 3, 2, 1, release, my body has an impulse to take a breath. It's as if I've sent my body a signal, time to let go. Squeeze, 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 3, 2, 1, and release. So there's the simplest, most fundamental level of the technique, muscular release. The face, 3, 2, 1, and release. See how that feels. If you feel an impulse to take a deep breath, take it. You're going to want to take more deep breaths. Your body's going to send you signals to take a deep breath because you've decided to let go, to give yourself permission to breathe, to open up. When we're contracted, we want to hold our breath, hold. And when we expand, we want to let go. Zone 2 is the top of the head, 3, 2, 1, and release. Now what that means is any tension you can tune into up here, that would mean also across your brow and forehead, let it go. 3, 2, 1, and release. You feel that? Now you do the face and the top of the head. Zone 3, the back of the head. 3, 2, 1, and release. Deep breath. Now I'm following my own path through this process based on how I feel. Obviously, you will feel different. As you start to practice this technique, customize it. Customize it to your body, to your sensations. But the main thing is, keep moving towards muscular release, which will move you into a more expanded state. The beautiful thing is, as you expand physically, it has a strong influence on all the processes of your body, your emotion, your mind. You will see that as before you started scanning or expanding, you had obsessive thoughts and specific ideas going through your head, worries, concerns. As your muscles start to release, they start to influence the entire state of being, and those thoughts will start to dissipate. You'll find yourself unable to hold on to specific thoughts. You'll start to let them go. They just won't matter. I've had moments when I scanned when I forgot what day it was. I forgot what I was scheduled to do that day. Now, you can't be that way all the time. We live in a contracted world. You have to keep your appointments. You have to know your name, your job, your purpose. You have to have information at your fingertips to, perform the tasks you wish to perform. But to balance that, to go into a place of expansion, you're going to let go of all that. Okay? When they first invented the internet, we were all excited because we thought we'll have the entire world of information at our fingertips, as if that was the answer to everything. Well, yeah, it's fantastic. But what they forgot to tell you is the more information you take in, the more structures you create, the more you hold on to or contract your thoughts and ideas, the more you pack into your brain, the more important it is that you balance all that with letting go of all that and expanding. Otherwise, we get off center. And that's why sometimes the internet can make us miserable. Because, yeah, it's great to have all these ideas and thoughts and that's how you accomplish things in life. But as human beings, it's important that you also know how to let go of all of that. To let go of everything. Go to a place of nothingness where you know nothing. You think nothing. You are nothing. You just exist. It's a wonderful feeling to know that you don't have to know anything or think anything or do anything to be alive, to exist. You can just experience yourself as a human being, a body, taking breaths with a beating heart, listening to the world around you, seeing the sights of this world. That's enough. You exist. It's very reassuring to know that that's enough. We start there. So expansion takes you back to that place of neutrality. Again, it brings you into balance. Zone 4 is the neck. 3, 2, 1, and release. And again, the neck. 3, 2, 1, and release. Deep breath. Again, when you're practicing on your own, find your own approach, your own muscle groups. You can start at the feet. You can start at the knees. Just the important thing is to tune into your body and find pockets of tension, muscular release that you can release. The smallest amount, doesn't matter. When you're expanding, you're not contracting. So the smallest release, a simple breath, a moment of stillness and silence moves you into a more expanded place. Zone 4 of the neck, 3, 2, 1, and release. Deep breath. And again, check in how you feel now as opposed to when you started 5-10 minutes ago. I am perfectly honest in telling you that I did not want to do this today. I was very resistant to it. I had thoughts in my head like, waste of time. I did it yesterday. Why do it again? It's not going to work. This is stupid. Now, if I'd listened to all those thoughts and ideas, that contractive process that was going on in me, I wouldn't have taken the time to scan and feel like I feel now, which is much more relaxed and calm. I'm not worried about the day. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm very comfortable in my chair and could probably sit there for quite a lengthy period of time and feel quite at ease. Just from simple breaths and muscular relaxation. So again, we're trying to build that into your day to make it part of your life to counteract the contraction. Nothing wrong with contraction, but we become overly contracted and then we feel, simply put, bad. And yet we are so trained to habitually go to contraction as the solution that we frequently find it hard to believe that by letting go of all that, by letting go, by going to a place of nothingness and relief, we can also solve problems and achieve things. So by practicing scanning, you're building that consciousness into your life. So even if you don't feel like scanning, you will do it because you understand it's necessary to bring yourself to this centered place. Zone 5 is the shoulders, 3, 2, 1, and release, let them drop. And again, the shoulders, let them drop, 3, 2, 1, and release. And I snap as if to turn a switch. When I turn that switch, the power goes off from those muscles and they must completely let go. It takes energy to contract a muscle. That's why sometimes when we're tense or worried, we are exhausted because we're basically in a state of holding. We're using our muscles to keep it together, as we say. And it's exhausting. So when you release muscular tension, you frequently will feel energized and free because you're no longer being constrained by your own musculature, which is only doing that to protect you, instinctively protect you. It's habitual. Zone 6, the chest, stomach, front of the waist. 3, 2, 1, and release. Take a deep breath. Again, you're expanding. Chest, stomach, front of the waist. 3, 2, 1, and release. And look for that slouching feeling, that droopy feeling that comes when you release a muscle group. Take a deep breath. And another. Now I'm realizing now why I felt so contracted or bad when I started the session. I did a lot this morning. I get up very early. I work out. I have a series of monologues, adaptations, which I've developed, which take literally an hour and a half to recite. I keep them all memorized, and it's something I'm working on for a show I want to do. And so I'd done all that this morning when I came to this place, to this chair, to sit down. I was in a very contracted state. I'd worked very hard at building strength, intellect, all necessary. You need to have a strong body. You need to have a strong intellect. These are things necessary for my life and my career. So I come to a very contracted state, and I left to my own habitual devices, I would have continued down that path for the rest of the day, and by the end of the day, just been a total wreck. But I took the time to do a session, which is what I recommend you do, especially when you least feel like doing a session, and I brought myself back into balance. I feel more quiet, more still, more relaxed, much more prepared to face my day. Zone 7 is down the back, past the waist, and into the all-important pelvic region. Focus on your pelvic region. That's your hips, your groin, the connection to the legs. And on my count, let go of whatever tension, muscular tension you feel in that area. 3, 2, 1, and release. In this area in particular, The contraction takes the form of a sort of clenching of sorts. And I've mentioned this before, the pelvis is the area within which is centered sexuality and waste elimination, two very sensitive topics. We're embarrassed, we fear loss of control. So we tend to hold that area. It's an area where you can really find yourself, if you lie in bed at night and try to relax, very resistant to letting go. So again, an area of tension and effort. It's exhausting, it's restrictive, it's necessary. We need to maintain control, but it's also tremendously advantageous to know how to let go of tension in that area. That can affect your entire body, your entire state of being. So down the back and into the pelvis, 3, 2, 1, let go and release. That's zone 7. Again, the pelvis, 3, 2, 1, and release. And just feel that unclenching. We have so many emotions and fears tied up in that area. You might find yourself resistant to letting go, but just experiment. Let go a little. Again, moving from contraction to expansion. Every muscle group you release affects every other muscle group in your body. You are moving your entire being into a state of expansion. Again, the pelvis, 3, 2, 1, and release. Take a deep breath. And another. Sit for a moment in stillness and silence. You know, everyone wants to be, quote unquote, in shape. What does that mean to be in shape? Well, generally speaking, it means you have a strong musculature, a strong heart, so you're prepared to deal with whatever physical challenges you face throughout the day in your life. That's good. Again, we live in a contracted world. The way to get things done is to contract. So if our muscles are strong, they are even more effective at contracting. So that's good. But there's another kind of workout. And that's an expansive workout. And that's what we're doing here. We are working out to undo the working out. We spend lots of time contracting. Now we're practicing expansion, letting go. And again, it's counterintuitive because you say, well, if I'm letting go, I'm not doing anything. I'm not getting anything done. How can that help advance my life and help me achieve my goals? I'm not doing anything. Counterintuitive. We are undoing. But what I've learned through this process, via Thaddeus Golis, and this theory of contraction and expansion, is that expansion is of equal value. Now, you can't just lie around doing nothing and just be a completely expanded glob of jelly. You won't survive in this life. You have to contract. You have to get out of bed in the morning and go to work. You have to think about things. You have to write things. You have to send emails. You have to be strong. I'm an actor. I have to be physically strong on stage. But what you want is to develop to an equal degree the opposite process, which is expansion, to bring yourself into balance. So that's what we're doing now. We're practicing expansion. Final zone is down the legs, across the knees, and into the feet. 3, 2, 1, and release. Now, I'm an actor, so I tune into my body frequently. You know, it's my instrument, as they call it. I have to know where I'm at any given moment. How capable am I of doing a certain role or a scene or a monologue? My body has to be in shape. I have to be ready. This is what I use. This is the instrument I play. So I'm highly attuned to how I feel, to almost my detriment. I'm too aware sometimes. But if you're not familiar with it, what you want to do is get better at focusing your energy, your focus on particular areas of your body. So think for a moment, how do my feet feel? How do they feel? How tense are they or not? This might be new to you. But this is what you learn through the process of scanning, to control the musculature of every part of your body so that you can bring yourself into this relaxed, expanded state. So think about your feet and how they feel. Are they tired? Are they sore? Are they tense? Are they hot? Are they cold? Just think about your feet. The interesting thing is, as you direct your attention towards a particular area of your body, there's an interesting phenomenon where that body will start to throb. You can actually induce throbbing in a certain area of your body by thinking about it. It's as if you're directing your body to focus its attention on that area and send healing blood and circulation to that area. And there's a healing technique. I think it's a touch technique where if you have a sore shoulder, you will lightly touch your shoulder and direct your energy there until you begin to feel a throbbing in your shoulder as the blood vessels open up and the blood begins to rush to this area, which is very healing and relaxing. And you might feel some relief from the pain. So think about that. That's what we're doing. We're focusing our energy. I keep saying focusing our focus. We're putting our focus on areas of our body and trying to change their state, in this case, by releasing muscular tension. So think about your feet. Now my count. Let go of every ounce of tension that you feel in your feet. 3, 2, 1, and let it go. Again, the feet, 3, 2, 1, and let it go. If you feel resistance, that's natural. We tend to protect our feet because they're very sensitive. Feet are interesting. They're as sensitive as they are strong. Think about it. You walk around on these two parts of your body all day long. Support anywhere from 100 to 300 pounds. So they're strong, they're tough. At the same time, if you touch them the wrong way, you jump through the roof because there's a lot of nerve endings in the feet. So your feet could use some relief. They could use a break, and they're frequently tense because they're having to face the challenges of walking all day long. So your feet, 3, 2, 1, and release. Again, 3, 2, 1, and release. Take a deep breath. Now, again, noticing the differences, I'm finding it much easier now, after having done the session, to take a deep breath than when I first started. When I first took my first 3 deep breaths about half an hour ago, it made me dizzy. I found it difficult. I felt uncomfortable. And now it's very easy because I'm expanded. The muscles have relaxed. I'm more open. I'm more available. So in these sessions, I move through these zones fairly quickly. When you practice on your own, take as much time as you like. Just remember that the resistance you feel to this process, both in starting and in continuing, are a sign of how contracted you are. So don't be discouraged if you feel resistant, if you don't want to do it, or you don't feel like it's having any effect, like this isn't working. That voice screaming, "This isn't working," is your contracted voice. It doesn't want to let go. It's looking for a timetable. Why isn't this happening faster? Time is contraction. It's looking for results. Results are a contraction. The expanded being doesn't care about results, doesn't care about time. There's nowhere I need to be. There's nothing I need to do. There's nothing I need to think. I just exist. So they are really at cross purposes. They're completely different processes, contraction and expansion. They can work together, and that's what we want, is to vacillate between the two depending on what we need. But ultimately what you want to be is centered, to have equal amounts of contraction and expansion in your life. So we just spent a half an hour expanding. So see how that made you feel. And again, it's a funny thing to admit. This session is a contraction. So in a way, all my talking, all your listening, all this processing is a contracted process. It runs counter to the purpose of scanning. So I do these as a means of sharing this information, but ultimately what you want when you're scanning is to not talk at all, not think, not learn, but just be. So take what I've shared with you, and I highly encourage you to practice on your own and make it your own and take time with it, as much time as you like, until you begin to feel this shift. And you will feel it, and you'll really enjoy it, and you'll feel better, and you're going to want to come back to this place. This centered, calm, open, still, empty, peaceful, accepting, happy place through the incremental release of muscular tension. I feel better. I hope you do too. We try to do these sessions every day. I post them for a little while on my Facebook page, and then I switch them over to the scanning Facebook page. I delete them from the Facebook page and switch them over there. You might find it if you do a search under SQANNING. That's how I used to spell it, but now it's just SCANNING for simplicity's sake. You can watch them there. You can download it. You can listen to these sessions while you work. Sometimes that in itself is relaxing. But whatever you do, I hope you have a terrific day, and I appreciate your taking this time with me to learn this, what I feel is a very helpful technique called scanning, the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.